Thanks for tuning in to your daily dose of quick real estate updates, local housing trends, and market data, plus tips, tools, and strategies to help you buy, rent, or invest with confidence. You're now getting ready with RealiCare Reports, powered by the innovation team, Cami and Rex. Now go grab your favorite morning beverage, whether that's coffee or tea, and let's enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into a really important update on the Florida housing scene today.
Yeah, we're looking closely at Senate Bill 184 from 2025.
We've dug into the official bill text, pulled out the key stuff you need to know about, well, changes to tenant screening, and also the rules around accessory dwelling units, ADUs,
Exactly. Think of this as your guide to understanding how these legal shifts might actually affect you.
Right, whether you're renting, own a home, or maybe you're just watching how Florida's housing situation is changing.
Our mission is really just to clarify what's in this bill for you.
Okay, let's get right into it. First up, something that could, well, maybe ease a big headache for renters. These reusable tenant screening reports.
Yes, the bill actually defines these pretty specifically.
What's the definition then?
Okay, so a reusable tenant screening report is one that's been prepared within the last 30 days. It has to be done by a consumer reporting agency.
Yeah.
One of those companies that tracks credit, evictions, that sort of thing. And importantly, the applicant pays for it.
Okay, so recent and applicant funded. What needs to be in it? Sounds like more than just a basic check.
Oh, it's quite detailed. The bill says it must include the applicant's full name, their contact information address, email, phone proof of their current job,
Okay.
their last known address, information from an eviction history check that follows all the housing laws, crucially, the date the info is current as of, and the full consumer report.
Wow, yeah, that's a complete picture. So how does a landlord actually get this report?
Two ways, basically. The renter can give it to them directly, or they can use a third-party website.
A website.
Yeah, but this website has to comply with all the relevant laws, state and federal, about handling consumer reports. And here's a really key part. The landlord has to be able to access it for free.
Ah, free access for the landlord.
Yeah.
So potential cost savings for the renter then. No more multiple application fees if they use one of these.
That's the idea. Now, what can landlords do or not do with these?
Good question.
Well, landlords may accept them. It's an option, not a requirement. They can also ask the applicant to state that, nothing significant, nothing material has changed since the report was generated.
Makes sense.
But if the landlord does choose to accept a reusable report, they absolutely cannot charge the applicant a fee just to access it.
Okay.
And they also can't charge a separate application screening fee on top of that.
So real potential savings there for people applying to multiple places. But this doesn't completely tie the landlord's hands, does it?
No, not entirely. It's important to note this section doesn't override other laws about, say, considering criminal history in housing decisions. Those rules are still in place.
Right.
And like I mentioned, the bill is very clear. Landlords are not required to accept these reusable reports. It remains their choice.
Still, it feels like a step towards reducing upfront costs and maybe adding convenience for renters, having this portable screening document.
Definitely a potential benefit.
Okay, let's switch gears. The other really big piece of this bill is about accessory dwelling units, ADUs.
Yes, ADUs.
First, just to be clear, what's the bill's definition of the primary dwelling unit?
It's simple, really. That's just the main single-family house on the property, either the one that's already there or the one being planned, where the ADU would be added, the main house.
Got it. And the huge change here seems to be that local governments, cities, counties, they now have to allow ADUs in single-family neighborhoods, right? It's not optional anymore.
Exactly. That's the core shift. Before, the law said local governments may adopt ordinances to allow ADUs. Now, the bill states they shall adopt an ordinance by December 1st, 2025 to authorize them.
Shall. That's a strong word in legislation.
It is. It makes it mandatory. A clear push to get more ADUs built across Florida. And these ordinances apply prospectively, meaning only to ADUs approved after the local rules are adopted.
So local governments still get to write the rules, the ordinances. What can they still control?
They can. The bill says local ordinances may still regulate the permitting process, the construction standards, and how the ADUs are used. So things like safety codes, maybe size limits, utility hookups that can still be handled locally.
Okay, so some local control remains.
Yeah.
But the bill also puts some pretty specific limits on what those local ordinances cannot do, correct?
Yes, and this is where it gets really interesting for homeowners and renters.
Lay it out for us.
Okay, first big one. Local rules cannot prohibit renting or leasing an ADU.
Whoa.
There's one small exception.
Yeah.
For ADUs approved after the new local ordinance is in effect, they can ban rentals shorter than 1 month.
Trying to prevent them from just becoming short-term vacation rentals, focusing on actual housing supply.
Seems like the intention, yeah. Keep the focus on longer-term housing.
What else are local governments blocked from doing?
They cannot require the property owner to actually live in the main house, the primary dwelling unit.
Oh, really? No owner occupancy requirement.
Nope, that's gone. Which could make ADUs much more appealing for investors or, just providing housing for family without the owner having to be on site.
Interesting. What about parking? That's always a neighborhood concern.
They address that too. Local governments can't demand more parking if an extra car can already fit on the driveway without blocking the main house entrance or access.
Okay.
And if you convert your garage or carport into an ADU, they can't force you to build replacement parking spaces somewhere else.
Those seem like practical changes, removing potential barriers.
Definitely lowers the hurdles, yeah.
Now, I thought there used to be something about having to promise affordable rent when you got the permit, an affidavit or something.
That's gone. Yeah, that requirement to sign an affidavit attesting to affordable rental rates just to get the building permit removed by this bill.
So if that's gone, how do ADUs fit into the state's bigger picture for affordable housing?
Good question. There's a direct link now. Any ADU that gets built under one of these new mandatory local ordinances, if it's rented out at an affordable rate, it will now count towards that local government's affordable housing goals in their official comprehensive plan.
So there's an incentive for local governments to see affordable ADUs get built, even without the affidavit requirement.
Exactly. It helps them meet their targets.
What about homeowners? A lot of folks worry about their homestead exemption if they build and rent out an ADU. That's a huge tax break in Florida.
The bill tackles that head-on. It explicitly says a homeowner cannot be denied their homestead exemption just because there's an ADU on the property that's rented or even just available to be rented.
As long as
the owner still lives in the main house as their permanent residence. That's the key.
Okay, but there's got to be a catch with taxes, right?
There is, but it seems logical. If the ADU is rented out, that unit has to be assessed for property taxes separately based on its use as a rental.
So you keep the big tax break on your main home, but the rental unit gets taxed like a rental unit.
Pretty much. Seems fair.
So summing up the ADU part, what are the main upsides for a homeowner considering this?
Well, several. It could definitely boost their property value. It offers a potential new stream of rental income, which is obviously appealing. And it just creates more flexibility housing for family, maybe a caregiver, or just that extra income, more options.
Makes sense. Okay, beyond those two big areas, tenant screening and ADUs, the bill touches on a couple of other things related to affordable housing, right? Incentives and studies.
Yes, there's a provision about density bonuses.
How does that work?
It allows local governments the option to offer developers or landowners a bonus, basically, permission to build more units on a piece of land than the standard zoning allows.
In exchange for what?
In exchange for donating other land that will be used specifically for affordable housing. This can include housing for military families, too.
Okay, conditions apply, I assume.
Of course. The local government has to agree the donated land is actually suitable for building affordable housing, and it needs to have deed restrictions put on it to make sure it stays affordable housing long term.
So it's a way to potentially leverage private land donations for the public good. What about the studies you mentioned?
Right. The state wants to explore some maybe less traditional approaches. The Office of Program Policy Analysis and Government Accountability, OPAGA, they're tasked with evaluating a couple of things.
Like what?
First, how effective something called mezzanine finance is for developing affordable owner-occupied housing. So homes people can actually buy.
Mezzanine finance. Sounds complicated. Quick explanation.
Think of it like a middle layer of debt. It sits between the main mortgage and the developer's own equity. Often higher interest, but maybe faster, easier to get in some cases. OPAGA is going to see if it's a good tool for building affordable homes for purchase.
Okay, and the second thing they're studying?
Tiny homes. They're going to evaluate the potential of tiny homes to help meet Florida's affordable housing needs.
Tiny homes are definitely a hot topic. Makes sense to study their viability statewide. Who's OPAGA working with on this?
They'll be consulting with the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. They handle state housing programs, and also the Schimberg Center for Housing Studies at the University of Florida.
So bringing in the finance side and the academic research side, good combination.
Yeah, tapping into existing expertise.
And when do we see the results? Is there a deadline?
Yes, APAJA has to get their report with findings and recommendations to the legislature by December 31st, 2026. The part about mezzanine finance also has to include ideas for a potential model program.
So those are more medium-term evaluations. Okay, final crucial detail. When does all of this actually take effect? When does SB 184 become law?
The effective date for the entire act is July 1st, 2025.
July 1st, 2025. Got it. Okay, let's try to wrap this up. It really feels like Senate Bill 184 is paving the way for some pretty noticeable changes in how housing works in Florida.
I'd agree. You see a clear direction towards, well, maybe leveling the playing field a bit for renters with these reusable screening reports, saving time, saving money potentially. And then the ADU mandate, plus stripping away some of those old restrictions like owner occupancy and parking minimums. That's a significant push to add density, add housing options right within existing neighborhoods.
So for you listening, the bottom line seems to be that more affordable, more flexible housing options could be coming down the pike in Florida.
Right.
Worth keeping an eye on how your local city or county implements these new rules.
Absolutely. And maybe this leaves you with a final thought to chew on. How might these shifts, the screening reports making renting easier and more ADUs popping up in single-family areas, how might that actually change the character of our neighborhoods?
Yeah, and what does it mean for overall housing access in Florida long-term? Definitely something to think about for your own community.
Well, that wraps up today's episode of Reality Reports, where real estate meets real life. For more updates, tools, and insights that will help you buy, rent, or invest with confidence, be sure to follow, subscribe, stay connected, stay informed.